a video just a little while ago regarding Orrin West and FASD, which is fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. FASD is on the rise. It occurs when mothers drink while their baby is in utero, and it doesn't have to take a lot of alcohol, or it can take, a mother drinking through entire pregnancy. It is a spectrum disorder, and it's also caused by a varying degree of alcohol consumption whilst a woman is pregnant. So I talked about this not because I had seen anything other than photos of Orrin, but we knew that Orrin had a broken arm at one stage. We knew that him and his brother had been removed from the biological parents. And I came to the conclusion, it's just my opinion, that Orrin actually has FASD. And this would mean that a child needs very specific care. A child needs specific care if they're put into a care home by Child Protective Services. Let's just be clear though, these prospective foster parents aren't being given psychological evaluations. If you've seen the curriculums, what they are taught, these worksheets that they go through. They go to these, courses where they learn about what to expect. And this doesn't make them trained childcare professionals. It doesn't make them able to respond well under high pressure situations. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that they've had a little bit of basic training about what a child with a specific condition needs. Now, I don't know. I can't see where Catherine of Left Undone in her latest video shows a diagnosis of FASD for Orrin, but she does bring up some very interesting dialogue in written form between Orrin's mother and friends, talking about Orrin's mother's alcohol consumption whilst pregnant, indeed whilst pregnant with Orson as well. But it's pretty much proof that, yep, she was drinking when she was pregnant with this little boy. And I don't know that it's documented that this is one of the reasons why Orrin was removed from the family, was because he's born with FASD and has very special needs. I don't know what training the parents went through. Maybe it can be confirmed whether the foster and then adoptive parents actually went through training about FASD specifically. But going through these courses, these curriculums, if you've read any of them, you'll know it's the basics, right? And there's a worksheet and they get signed off. It's not a TAFE course. It's not a pre-nursing course. It's not a course that's done as part of becoming a GP or anything like this. These are very basic. However, they do let you know what to expect, and maybe they're there to monitor whether parents who want to be foster parents, people who want to be foster parents, are really up for it or something. I don't know, because they're not given psychological testing. Anyhow, I'm digressing. But I just thought it was really interesting because Catherine's really good with her investigations. She does call herself Left Undone Incomplete Investigations, and she does go looking for things. So if you go over to Left Undone channel, and her video shows screenshots of these conversations. So it is pretty disturbing. Catherine is a registered nurse. I respect her opinion with regards to if a child could be living with this spectrum disorder or not. And it seems that Catherine agrees with my idea on it. Yeah, so what do you think? Do you think, sorry, I'm sounding a little tight and everything, aren't I? I'm sort of tense. I'm a bit anxious. I haven't slept well. I've still, obviously, the swelling's there. I'm not in too much pain, but I do have a splitting headache. Sorry, I'll try and speak a bit more moderately. What do you think about Orrin and Orson and their disappearance? Because, you know, do you think the biological family have stolen these children back? Do you think they've been rehomed? Do you think no good has come to them? I just truly, I know anything might be the case, but I truly believe that the neighborhood seems like there are enough cameras to see children wandering off, and maybe cars in the area that don't belong in the area, because where the Wests bought this home, this is it's like in this little subdivision that's off the highway. You have to drive in there for a reason, really. You're not sort of going to drive in. It's not kind of a through suburb as a shortcut or a way to get to a shopping centre or anything like that. The people driving around this area are going there for a reason. So, okay, yes, maybe they're going there to look out for these little West boys and to snatch them back. But, you know, they're there for a reason because they live there, they're visiting. And I feel like the cameras who would have caught cars in the area, they might say, look, I've never really seen this one before. Look at how he's moving, etc. And I'm sure the police have followed up with what cars they've seen in the area. Surely they know whether there's any vehicles that were in the area that relate to the biological family. I mean, I can't be sure, but that's just how I feel. So to me, I mean, I'm just not certain that these poor kids made it to Cal City. It doesn't mean they didn't. It doesn't mean they didn't. And it doesn't mean that the biological family haven't snatched them back and have them hidden somewhere. But yeah, I did find what Catherine had to show about the discussions between the biological mother of Orrin and Orson West and her friend extremely compelling. And to me, it just deepens my belief that I held, that Orrin is living with FASD. And, you know, when Trezell is saying, you know, hey, kid's gonna be rambunctious, well, Orrin is going to be rambunctious. It is a spectrum disorder. Children suffer in different ways or have different barriers in life when they have this spectrum disorder. But a lot of it can create sort of these antisocial behaviors or these difficulties in communicating. And often there's a violence to how they feel because there's an issue with expression and with self-control. And you know, I think we see an excellent example of an untreated adult in Kadisha Bishop, the woman who shoved an old gentleman off the bus. He passed out. He never woke up in hospital. He got to hospital. He was alive for a month, but he never regained consciousness, I don't believe. And I want to know, I would like to know. Catherine's saying there's a diagnosis, but she didn't show the forms or anything about a diagnosis. I'm wondering if he was diagnosed. Were the Wests really aware of all the difficulties that they were going to have with Orrin to do with FASD? Were they specifically trained? I mean, we've got Jacqueline who's homeschooling. Not everyone is suited to do this, and we don't all have certain qualities that make us able to just do anything we decide to do. Sometimes we're just going to fail in life. Some people aren't going to be the best person to homeschool their own children. This is okay. There's so much pressure on people. But, what was the reason Jacqueline gives? I mean, I guess, did she just start doing this through COVID, or was she doing this before COVID? That's putting a lot of pressure on one person, isn't it? To have 6 children in her home. I mean, okay, we know Trezell wasn't going out to work, but was he going out and doing his activities, doing his workouts, working on getting that body that he can show off in those tight black shirts, in interviews on TV, It was cold. He didn't want to put a puffy jacket on, did he? Not everyone is going to cope. I mean, I could barely cope sometimes with 2 animals in the house, and I just need to get, and I've had 5 animals in the house, and it can be bonkers, and these are just pets. So to have 6 children, and very young children, and then all these different personalities and these different connections. When you're in a family and your blood, there's something going on there, right? It's special. There's some vibe that happens. And I'm not saying everyone is close to blood or that blood is better, but blood is thicker than water. And, so you've got foster children, you've got biological children, and you've got adopted children. So what sort of pecking order and hierarchy were these children working out? Was Orrin getting more care, the care that he actually would have needed, more special care? And was this causing problems with the other children? Or, was he getting the special attention he needed? Did the biological children get more attention? We don't know enough. And I don't think we can say categorically either way that the Wests have done something to the children, that they've brought them up a special way, that the biological family took the children, that they didn't take the children. I mean, we really don't know, but what we really hope is that the law enforcement officers working on this case have got it nailed, and they're going to do something about it. But, I really do. I've got concerns about what the household environment was like for these children. It does worry me. And, when you're thinking about services, child protective services, assessing families and things, what makes their job easier? Oh, well, to see that in the family that there are people that already make a living caring for children. They're running kids' homes and things, maybe fostering sort of runs in the family. Does this sort of sway them to think, well, this is, an easy tick? They're overstretched, they're under-resourced. There's, you're under a lot of pressure to put ticks on boards, working for any sort of services like this. These government organisations and non-government organisations that are funded by government are brought in, and they struggle. Let's look at the defunct Salvation Army organisation, or break off or department that was supposedly looking after children in foster home. This is a farmed out administrative role that they tender for to the government, and they say, well, we'll take that on. And you know what, there's layers of management there telling little workers what to do and telling the workers to get these ticks on the board and to write these reports and to state things were done. And that's how they get their money, and that's how they ensure their funding later. Well, what happened was the Family and Child Services, formerly DOCS, so they farmed out the monitoring of foster children in homes to the Salvation Army sort of, department. And they were looking after 130 of them. And their job is to do the monitoring, to do the home visits, to do this, to do that. It's not even, there's no accountability. It's all farmed out. And then it's decided how successful they are by the reports that are made, by the documents that are filed. I've worked in disability services, okay? I've worked in a lot of roles in government-funded non-government organisations and not-for-profit organisations who supply support to people with all sorts of issues, with alcohol and drug issues, with brain injuries, across the board, employment barriers and things. And, I have seen a little bit of how things really operate from the inside. And so when I make suggestions about the difficulty child protection services have and maybe how things really go, it's not criticism as such, but it's a criticism of the system, of how many layers there are to it, of the waste of funds, of how things are really administered and monitored, and what's really how things are quantified, okay? And the stress people are under. I know the stress people are under. And there's so many variables that we just don't know. And, none of it is to say that children aren't taken into care for a reason, and most of the time it's well overdue that they are. But so this is why I've made my video prior about Orrin West and my belief that he had FASD, because I could see it, I suspect it, and then I can think of, well, what this means when he's in the home. I can see what it meant for pre-birth and the start of his life with his biological parents. But what I would like to know is, okay, is it diagnosed, and what training did the Wests get about this, and was there specific training? Because I don't know, would this be released? I don't know, how do we find out? And were they capable of looking after special needs children? I don't care if they've been qualified or not. I mean, just because someone puts their hands up, sometimes it's because they're rich, or they've already got children, or they've had children prior. None of this is a guarantee that anybody is capable. I mean, do you think that William Terrell's foster carers failed in duty of care? The Salvation Army, did they fail in their duty of care? William was not kept safe. In this instance, I can see that William may have been stolen, the little stolen Spider-Man from Kendal, New South Wales. Do I think he was, though? I doubt it. I am jumping around a lot here, mentioning different cases. Sorry about that. I thought I might start a series called a series called 3-Minute Theories, because and they have to be theories that aren't out there already about cases. So, you know, I've got one about the Ramsey case, and something just to get you all thinking. I don't believe I've ever seen anyone say that this is something that might have happened, because what I see in the Ramsey case is people flogging the dead horse of Burke Dunnett. Again, of course, it's a possibility. There are some very wild theories about how Patsy done it. There are some complicated theories on JAR done it, because that would have to be quite elaborate, you know, with the private plane flights and 7 witnesses all, you know, being manipulated by John. I mean, we know the family lawyered up to do with JAR. We know that John Ramsey wanted him cleared before he'd talk to police and things like this. But, you know, he may just have wanted to really protect one more of his children, because he's lost 2 children now. You know, and solutions seem to just get more and more wild, and to have to include more and more maneuverings and, you know, elaborate schemes, and so many people. And we all know the more people involved, the trickier things are. What if it involved just a simple couple of minutes in the car, like a simple car drive, but when? Anyway, maybe I'll just record that now as a separate video. So why have I come on here to make this video about Orrin West and fetal alcohol spectrum disorder? It's because Catherine of Left Undone has made a video where she has investigated something that, you know, I don't do. I'm not an investigator. I'm a commentator, I guess. She's found social media in black and white, and I believe she wouldn't show it if it wasn't real, between the biological mother of Orrin and her friend or friends, talking about their alcohol consumption. And this is while she's pregnant with Orrin, and the biological mother states, you know, hey, well, I did it with Orson as well, sort of thing. And yeah, so I thought this is really interesting, because someone else thinks this is a possibility. And yeah, if this really truly is a possibility, isn't it something that should have been diagnosed? And when would it be diagnosed? Has Jacqueline been going to doctors saying, look, I think there is something we need to explore with this child. He's struggling more than he should. These behaviors aren't right. I'm with him 24/7. I know. You know, I want to know. So, you know, it's not to say, okay, there's a criticism of any one thing, but can you see how there is a domino effect when things don't happen, things aren't followed up, or things go, you know, kids are just dropping through the cracks all the time and being failed all the time from every angle. Okay, so yes, great. Children need to go into care because mother has an alcohol issue. Orrin had a broken arm, and I don't think she could really explain that very well. Was it an arm or a leg? It might have been a leg. It could have been a leg bone, a femur, and that's a weight-bearing bone. So this is the densest bone in our body. So it's pretty hard to break. Children often break arms or collarbones and things, like when they roll off the bunk bed or something like that. So, you know, but then you've got the next stage of assessment of what do these children need and what's right for them. And then they're in care, and then the observation of these children shouldn't stop. Now, I'm not saying that CPS weren't there, but did they observe that Orrin needed special care? Did they observe that maybe he is really struggling because he's got more barriers than other children? He's already been taken from his mother, and at that young age, it does matter. Children are very connected to their mother throughout the toddler time. It is a very difficult time. And with what I've observed, I observe things in life, and then I can later make conclusions based on my life experience or work experience. And I've just noticed, I think little boys do have a tough time when they're toddlers. They're having all this testosterone, these surges, right, that come into their bodies at various times in life. When they're 5, 7 years old, it's actually more powerful than in an adult male, the testosterone surge. This is just what happens, okay? But then they generally calm down again. But, it happens in toddlers too. There's often the tantrums and things, and they can be difficult. But they're also very attached to their mom. And, so he's been taken from mum. No matter if she's broken his leg accidentally or something, this is neglect maybe it wasn't violence inflicted upon him purposefully. We don't know. But has there been further, is Jacqueline West and Trezelle West, are they capable of seeking advanced care? Where are the visits to the pediatrician? Were they making constant visits to the pediatrician, asking for assessment? Was he assessed as special needs because of a spectrum disorder? Don't get confused with ASD, with autistic spectrum disorder. This is a totally different thing. It used to encompass Asperger's as well, which is more of a high-functioning part of that spectrum disorder. It's not autism that we're talking about here. We're talking about FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Okay, so this is a longer video than I thought it was going to be. It was going to be a few minutes. Maybe I'll jump on with my little Ramsey theory. I'm not saying it's what I believe, but hey, it's something that's possible. It's simple. It makes a few things clear about the Steins and things. And yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, I think we do need new ways to think that aren't getting more and more complex, sometimes even more and more dark, even though I think there's a lot of darkness in the Ramsey family. Don't come for me. It's my opinion. It's just an opinion. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you again for listening. Give it consideration. Have a look into it. I'm going to try to learn more. I'll see who knows more about the situation with the little West boys, but I don't know how protected all their information is, whether we'll ever get medical records, visit vet records and things like this. I really don't know what's going to be available. And so it's, it's all just really speculation, but, there can be so many different ways of looking at this. And, maybe Jacqueline had taken him for assessment, or maybe he was assessed prior, and maybe she said, yes, I can care for a boy with FASD. But there's been no mention of this. They haven't said in their plea, look, this little boy's got special needs. All we've heard is, kid's going to be rambunctious. Well, that doesn't sound like an aware parent. A parent that's aware, they would never say that about a child that has a special need and couldn't help it, or had a condition that changed his behavior from what might be considered within normal ranges. Do you know what I mean? I feel Orrin West did live with FASD. I feel he wasn't diagnosed, but Catherine may have found something, so I'll look into that more. It's just that it wasn't shown in a video, and I feel he wasn't getting the special needs attention and care that he required. And to me, that says that Child Protective Services weren't doing their job, that they weren't getting him the right assessments, medical care, follow-up, and that they weren't assuring that the Wests were the right people maybe for this job. I don't know. Don't get down on me. I think this is all very fair speculation based on what we've seen and heard, okay? Yeah, have a wonderful day. It's stopped raining now, so I can get out and go where I need to, but maybe I'll just quickly make this first episode in a new series, 3-minute theories. I don't know why I'm saying 3 minutes. Have I ever just spoken for 3 minutes? It just sounds good, a series of 3-minute theories. All right, speak to you later. Thanks again for listening.